Hello and welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Vanessa Rose. So happy that you decided to join us for another great edition today. We are very honored to be joined again. It's been quite a while since he's been here, but by the Honorable Doug Ducey. He is the Arizona State Treasurer here in our beautiful Valley of the Sun. Thank you so much for joining us today, Treasurer Ducey.
Thank you, Vanessa. It's a pleasure to be here.
Appreciate you being here. Last time you were on, you had great things to share, and I know that the economy and things in Arizona is an ever-changing environment, and
Yes.
you're probably have learned even so much more.
I've learned much more, and our economy is very slowly coming back. The financial turnaround for the state, though, has been much more optimistic and positive. I do think from the position we were in December of '09, when the state was being described as structurally broken, bankrupt, the budget was being called insolvent, we're in a dramatically different position today, and that's something that I think Arizonans can be proud of. The economy is behind that, but slowly but surely moving in the right direction.
Wonderful, Treasurer Ducey. Well, before we get started into the full topics, if you wouldn't mind just sharing with the viewing audience a little bit about yourself and your history and how you came to be the Arizona State Treasurer.
Sure. Well, my background's in the private sector. I was in business for 25 years, but I was born in Toledo, Ohio. I lived there till 1982. I actually came to Arizona to go to school here and attended Arizona State University, received my degree in finance. I met my wife in college. We've been married now. It'll be 23 years this October.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Exciting.
Yeah, we have 3 sons, Jack, who is 16, Joe, who is 14, and will be a freshman next year, and Sam is in 3rd grade.
Oh.
And he's 9.
So you're a proud dad, so
I'm
that keeps
a
you
proud
busy.
father. We're very busy. They're all active and good boys, and it's just been great being a parent. And everyone says it goes quickly, but I can't believe that we're already talking about colleges with my oldest one. So,
Do you think he'll follow in your footsteps and go to ASU? Or?
Well, he definitely is going to go to college. He wants to go to college. He talks about finance and economics and other things. I want him to study something he's passionate about. And he's a good student and a good boy, so I'm proud of all 3 of them.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that about your family and how you became state treasurer. But for all of you at home watching, today we are speaking about economy, and our first topic is Arizona's finances, which we kind of already started to speak about. But how much money does the state have in the treasurer's office today?
Well, today we have $2.4 billion in cash in what would be considered the state's checking account. That would be where we pay teachers from, fill potholes, the dollars that go to provide any essential state service. And what's remarkable about that $2.4 billion is that if you just go back just 3 years ago to December of '09, that account was actually empty. There was not $1 in it. The state was using a Bank of America issued credit card, and we had $730 million in debt on that. So we were borrowing money to do those same essential state services. The downturn was tremendously difficult for the state, for state government, for our economy. Now we've gone in the right direction. We have that amount of money in the bank. In addition to the $2.4 billion, we have $453 million in a savings account earning interest. So we're on much firmer financial footing than we were just 3 short years ago.
So all those numbers, how does that affect the people of Arizona positively?
Sure, it's a great question. Well, there are certain things people expect from their government. I mean, the government takes dollars from citizens in terms of taxes, and then the services that they're to provide are around education, around the Medicaid access program, and around public safety. So when we don't have those dollars, there's cuts, and they can hurt those types of services. What you hear about most of the time is around education. So I think the fact that we're on that firmer financial footing right now, and that we're able to put funding into education, even have done some things in the Treasurer's office to increase funding for education has been a positive. What I'd like to see government do is focus on that reform of the system so that we're more concerned with the outcomes that we're getting inside of a K-12 classroom and not just simply the amount of dollars that are being spent. Of course, we need dollars to attract and retrain great teachers, to have the proper supplies inside the classroom, but we want to focus on getting those outstanding results, having high expectations, attracting and rewarding great teachers, which we have a lot of in Arizona. Make sure we don't lose them to other careers or other states.
I'm sure a lot of people would agree with you on that statement. We want to see results, not just necessarily money going into something.
Yes, absolutely.
That's something that I think our state's done pretty well with, is education, and something that we're always improving, right? You can always improve.
Sure, it's something that's in need of improvement. I think someone of my generation can say that America has the #1 K-12 education system in the world, and it was so far and away #1, we didn't know who #2 is. You fast forward just 4 short decades, and our education system is in dramatic need of improvement. Now, we have great schools in Arizona. We just don't have enough great schools. And we have certain zip codes where if a child's born in that zip code, they don't have access to an excellent education. And I think all of us believe that that's not right. So to fix that, we're doing a lot of good things around choice and competition in schools, but we've got to think of all schools and all kids in this discussion. If we have a kid in K-12 education and he, for whatever reason, graduates high school and doesn't have those basic fundamentals, he's basically unemployable. There's no career that's there for him. He won't be able to attend college. He certainly won't have success in school. He'll need to go through what we call remediation. So we can fix a lot of this by focusing on K-12, focusing on kids being able to read by the time they're done with the 3rd grade, and then get that love of learning, that natural curiosity, and we want to stoke that, and we want more of that. And there's so much that can be done inside a school with a teacher to do that. A lot can happen at home, we know as well, but
yes.
And hopefully that exists at home. But if it doesn't, we want to make sure our schools are providing the type of environment where any and every kid are learning and receiving an excellent education.
And you're absolutely right. They're the foundation of our future. They're going to be our next heads of states,
sure.
and next treasurers, and
They
next
grow up
governors.
quick.
They do grow up quick, and I know that our education system here is different than it was several decades ago. And I know that we always have people continuously working to make that better. And I know that Arizona is very big on school choice and helping families take their children out of their zip code to help them get a better education. But back to come to our budget and where we are in funds. Just in a short synopsis, of course, I know there's a lot of detail that we wouldn't even imagine to know about. Accounting was never my thing. It's the one class in college I ever failed. I probably shouldn't admit to that. But what did you do to get our funds up to where we have a surplus or a positive cash flow? Sure.
Well, I think that it's actually the electorate that did more than just myself. I mean, they sent a signal in 2010 that they didn't want a state that was bankrupt. They didn't want a budget that was broken. And I think not only the state treasurer, but anyone that ran on the theme of fiscal responsibility, and that we would bring some sanity to our state finances. So I have to give a lot of credit to Governor Brewer, who has had the courage to say no to bad ideas and use her veto pen to stop pet projects. I give a lot of credit to our state legislature, our Senate president, and our Speaker of the House. Without a financially responsible legislature, you wouldn't have the balances that we have today in our bank accounts. So a treasurer can be there as a check and a balance between the governor and the legislature, but if you have folks that just want to have reckless runaway spending and people put them in office, it's very difficult to stop them. I didn't find that. When I was elected in 2010, I was a newcomer, came from the business community. My company was Cold Stone Creamery. Selling ice cream was dramatically different from being in public service. But I did find a team environment that we were going to fix this financial situation of the state. And to a great and large degree we have. We are in a much better spot, certainly than other Western states, other states around the country. But we made some difficult political decisions. We did what all of the viewers have done. Everyone that's watching had to find a way through 08 and 09 to tighten their belt and live within their means. Government was late to that game. In 2010, they said, we are finally going to balance this budget.
So it's a team. It's everybody working together, getting it done in the state capitol, making it happen.
That's the environment that I experienced the first 2 years. I wouldn't say that politics is traditionally a team sport, but when you are doing good things, when you are moving good policies forward, it's going to be more than any one individual. And that's really the beauty and construction of our system and representative government and the checks and balances we have not only at the federal level, but at the state level.
Did you feel that you had an advantage coming in as state treasurer, coming from the private sector? So that's something that helped you get into the position and really just understand what was happening?
I think the advantage was that you had a fresh outlook, and I was able to bring business-like approaches and practices that I could apply to government that could help improve it. So that was an advantage. The disadvantage was I didn't have the relationships and I didn't know the elected leaders. So I had to work hard to build that trust and say that I'm here because I want to advocate on the side of financial sanity. And if you'll work with me on things that are responsible for the long term, I'll work with you. And so far, so good.
And debt is a word that none of us like, but does the state of Arizona have debt, and how much debt do we have?
Arizona does have debt. It has more debt than it should. It has more debt than it's constitutionally allowed. It has $8.5 billion in debt. This is a large amount. The Constitution only allows for $350,000 in debt. And I don't want to be one of those elected leaders that's always pointing to the people that came before them and blaming them. But this was accumulated over time, and we need to pay it down. And I think now that we have money in the bank, now that we have money in the savings account, we can do that. I don't think of debt so much as a bad word. Mm-hmm. I think of too much debt as a bad direction. You know, most families will use a responsible mortgage plan so that they can live in and eventually own their home. I think when you're being responsible about debt as a family, you can do better things. You can look at it to a certain degree for a state as well, but we've taken on more debt than we're constitutionally allowed, so we should pay that down. So people know where we are in context. Our economy is about a $250 billion economy. Our debt's $8.5 billion. So if you look at that, if you just put that into real world terms, if you were somehow over the course of your career able to achieve an annual salary of $250,000 and your mortgage was $8,500, you'd probably find that a pretty reasonable mortgage. Mm-hmm. So our debt is manageable. What we need is leadership and a plan to pay that down. We're working on getting that done in the Treasurer's office, working with the legislature, and because there's dollars available now, that's something I'm confident we can accomplish.
Wonderful, Treasurer Ducey. Well, there's so much. All the numbers, it's amazing what you do there at the Treasurer's office, and thank you. I know that the people of Arizona are appreciative that we are moving along in the right direction. So thank you so much. If you have any questions for Treasurer Ducey's office, feel free to contact him. It is the Honorable Doug Ducey. He's the Arizona State Treasurer. Their number is 602-542-7800, and the website is aztreasury.gov. Feel free to visit that website. There's all kinds of neat things on there as well. I've gone on there, and they have interesting information on there if you want to know a little bit more about our state and how it's ran. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be right back after this short message.
I'm Dominique Dawes, and there's a big advantage parents can give their kids, making sure they get active at least 60 minutes each day. Studies show that physical activity not only helps kids stay healthy, it can enhance important skills like concentration and problem solving, which can improve academic performance. This means physical activity can help your kids in the most important game of all, life.
Welcome back to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Vanessa Rose. So happy you decided to stay with us. If you just happen to be joining us today, we are very honored to be joined by the Honorable Doug Ducey. He is the Arizona State Treasurer. Thank you so much for staying with us, Treasurer Ducey. And we just spoke about Arizona's finances, about how the fact that we are moving along as a state, doing good things, or going in the right direction. And now we're going to speak about the Arizona $4 billion State Land Trust Fund. For our viewers at home, what is that?
Well, the Permanent Land Endowment Trust Fund is a fund that was established when the state was enabled by the federal government back in 1912. So it's 100 years old, and basically to simplify what the construct was, when the state sells a piece of state land, those dollars are to come to the treasurer's office and be managed into perpetuity. So of that state land that's been sold in the first 100 years of our existence, we now have $4 billion under management in a permanent endowment. And it's significant because it goes to help fund K-12 education. It's $4 billion, and if you think of that as a university endowment, if it were, it'd be the 21st largest endowment in the country. And we still have millions of acres of state land available, and over the course of decades will be sold either for open spaces or for development. So that fund will grow as long as it's properly protected and properly invested, and we're at an all-time record high in terms of the value of the fund and of the unrealized gains. So that's good news for Arizona, it's good news for education, and it's a reason to be proud and optimistic about what's possible in our future.
So how is that allocated? How do they determine what amount of land that they sell every year here?
Well, the land department, which is separate from the treasurer's office, works on a formula so that they can get highest and best value. When they do make those decisions and land is either sold to cities, towns, municipalities, or private individuals, the dollars come to the treasurer's office. And something that happened this past year that we did in the treasurer's office was we fixed one of the formulas. It was actually Proposition 118. It was on the ballot in November. There wasn't, at least from where I sat, there wasn't a lot to be happy about with the results of the election in November. But Proposition 118 was a real positive for the state of Arizona, for school children, and for parents. We were actually able to put more money into K-12 education without raising taxes and without additional general fund spending. And it was because we fixed a flawed formula as how we take that $4 billion and move the proceeds on an annual basis into K-12 education. So I was very proud of the voters of Arizona. Sometimes these financial calculations can be very complex and difficult to understand, and a lot of times people will just vote no because they don't understand them. This is the first time this was on the ballot. We actually changed constitutional language. We took about 230 confusing words out of our state constitution, replaced them with 30 easy to understand words that couldn't be manipulated by any politician, words that any fifth grade math student could do the calculus on to know what the proceeds should be to K-12 education. And we'll have more reliable, more consistent annual funding to K-12 education. That's a result of Prop 118, and it's something that Arizonans should feel good about in this past election cycle. And good education is really a nonpartisan issue. This is something that everyone in the state wants, and when we graduate a student from 12th grade and they're ready for life, and they're ready for either a career or to go to college, we're going to have a productive, hardworking citizen who's giving back. When we get to a place where they aren't equipped, well, we've got a situation there that is avoidable if we do the right thing in K-12, and that's why I'm so excited and proud that we were able to get Proposition 118 passed.
As you mentioned, propositions can be intimidating to people. Even me as an informed voter, some of the language on them is so confusing. They're little synopsises of something that's much larger than that. What is the best way for someone to understand propositions whenever they're voting on them?
Well, I think there's a number of ways, and I agree with you. I think this language is often lawyerly language. It can be confusing. Sometimes it seems almost like it's on purpose. So I think there's a way to be involved where you attempt to understand yourself, but there's also people that are very involved. I think there's different private organizations, churches, and the like, think tanks, to find those organizations that align with your values and to talk with them about digging into the propositions and coming out with opinions. And I know there's a lot of good organizations in our state that do that. Both sides make their case. And on Proposition 118, what I was most proud of, in addition to the fact that it passed, it got out of appropriations 12-0. It got out of the Arizona State Senate, a body of 30 people, unanimously. And there really isn't much, especially in the political discourse that we're having today. We're very divided as a country on many of these issues. For us to be able to present good business-like ideas that benefit kids in K-12 education and to have unanimous consent moving forward to put it on the ballot and then it passes at the ballot box is something that should give us all hope. But on these other ballot propositions, I think to talk to organizations, churches, places that you're affiliated with that share your core beliefs is the best way to know how to vote, and get smart on them so that you can spread the word, because oftentimes they don't pass by that much. Prop 118 is the law of the land, but it was close. I would say too close for comfort, but it came on the right side of the kids and the teachers, and for that we're grateful.
And Proposition 118, the interesting thing is the language in it didn't necessarily reflect that it was specifically for education, because there was another proposition on the ballot, Proposition 204, which I know that you and your office were very firmly against. What was the difference between the two that you found was beneficial to the state?
Well, sure. I mean, one was good policy and would help education and kids, and one was just bad policy. Prop 204 named the state treasurer in it 11 times, and to compare and contrast.
How did that feel?
Well, we literally were involved in the writing of Proposition 118. I mean, that was an idea that came out of our office. When Prop 204 landed on our desk and we were able to see what it said and what it would do and what bad policy it was essentially a $1 billion permanent sales tax increase. It would have made the state of Arizona the second highest sales tax state in the country. It would have put a high price and a high cost on everyone and everything inside our state. It was also presented as an education bill, yet what it did is it benefited special interests, and it had been paid for by special interests. So we wanted to step up and say, listen, this is a bad idea. This will not benefit children or teachers. What we didn't do was make the case that there weren't additional dollars needed in the classroom. What we said is we have things like Proposition 118, which is something solid to vote for, and that we have over $1 billion at that time in the bank at the state treasurer's office. So if there is a need, let's make the case and use the dollars we already have. Let's not raise taxes on hardworking Arizonans in a flat economy. That's the wrong thing to do. And the good news is on Election Day, Prop 204 lost in every county in the state. Proposition 118-1, we were able to put dollars into K-12 education. We were able to stop an idea that would have hurt the economy, and the work continues, though, to improve K-12 education and the outcomes that we have in these classrooms for these kids, to make sure that the teachers are properly supported and rewarded for good work.
And the Land Trust Fund, it benefits education. What else is it going to benefit the Arizona residents for? What else is it used for?
It goes to other things, including universities and some other things that were here at the beginning of the foundation of the state. But over 90% of it goes to K-12 education. So that's really where the battle is, as to how these dollars are deployed so that they're inside the classroom, that they're not soaked up in bureaucracy or administration that's unneeded or overhead. If we can get the right teacher, which we have so many of in the state of Arizona, properly supported and equipped in that classroom, we're going to have better outcomes in education. And that really is so much of the funding that we have, and making sure those formulas are right and putting the dollars where they'll make the biggest difference is going to be a key to reforming education.
As the state treasurer, you see a lot of the numbers happening here in Arizona. What is your point of view of the general outcome of what's happening here in the state of Arizona economically, with jobs, and especially Arizona was hit the hardest in the bubble, in the burst, with property and land value. Where do you see us in that aspect?
I see us coming back. I see us coming back. We were riding very high in the early 2000s, 2005, 2006. When we saw it start to turn in 2007, state government was very late to react. Our spending was on a trajectory that was outpacing inflation and population growth. It was irresponsible. There's a real learning from the spending patterns of the past, and that we don't go back and do that. We've paid a price in home ownership, in foreclosures, in economic compression. All that is turning. I'd like to see it turn more quickly. Traditionally, America's recessions, Arizona comes out of it skyrocketing. This is much more methodical. I think part of the reason is we don't have good economic policy out of Washington, D.C. So the only thing we can focus on right now at the state level is to make sure we're doing the right thing in terms of our finances and our economy and our policies. And I think we're doing a lot of the right things. There's going to be no substitute to improve Arizona's economy than a growing national economy. As the economy turns nationally, and it is, again, slowly but surely, not as quickly as we would like, not as quickly as we've seen in past recessions, Arizona will be in a great spot, especially in comparison to, say, our neighboring state of California, who we were worse off than in 2009, and they've yet to take the difficult medicine to get their budget in balance and correct their financial mistakes, which short term will be positive for Arizona. But I don't think we should take any joy in the fact that they'll the weight of their financial irresponsibility will really hurt that state, which has been a great engine for innovation and economic development for the nation.
And you mentioned that, of course, D.C. has a big effect on us as an economy. How do you feel our jobs market is here for people that are out there looking for work? Do we have a positive turn here in the state of Arizona, separate from the numbers that are happening in our nation?
We do have a positive turn, but the negative was so severe. We lost about 300,000 jobs in the downturn. We have about a third of those back. We are adding jobs in the state, but we have a very low base. So if you compare us to other states, one good sign and a sign of strength and resiliency for the state of Arizona is that we actually grew in population through this downturn. So people continue to flee the Rust Belt, Southern California, and they come here for the quality of life we all enjoy. This is a great place to live, work, play, retire, receive an education. All those things still remain. The even better news, Vanessa, is now we're affordable again. But I think to attract companies, attract headquarter offices, have the type of environment where the companies that are already here, employers can grow, add employees, make the decisions that grow your business and market over time. Those are needed and necessary now.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Treasurer Ducey, again, for all that you're doing in our state. So many great things for you at home. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact the Treasurer's office. It is the Honorable Doug Ducey. He is the Arizona State Treasurer, 602-542-7800. aztreasury.gov. Thank you again for watching at home. We look forward to seeing you here next time on Joy in Our Town.
This program has been sponsored by the Trinity Broadcasting Network and made possible by your telethon dollars. Your continual support can keep Joy in Our Town brought to your home every day. So write Joy in Our Town, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.